Hello and good day, students. This is our last lecture on this module 5 on writing skills. The course as usual is GST 111/211 Communication in English. I remain Dr. Aliyu Yakub Yusuf. Let's go into the lecture. We are going to begin with how to write a curriculum by T or a resume. Another name for curriculum by T is resume. And it is a document that someone should write when he or she is applying for a job. So when you are applying for a job, it is paramount that you give a good first impression to your potential employers. That is to say, when you are looking for a job, you have graduated from a university or from any school, any tertiary institution, and you are seeking for a job. It is important you give a good first impression to anyone who wants to employ you. How do you do that? How do you achieve that? Is by writing a very good curriculum by T or a resume. A resume or a CV is a personal marketing document that you as a job seeker use to sell yourself to any potential employer. So it is a very important step in securing a job, a good job. When your CV is well written, you stand a good chance of securing your dream job. But when your CV is badly or poorly written, you stand a chance of facing rejection after rejection from various employers. Therefore, your CV must be written proficiently and fluently. A CV is expected to explain to your prospective employers a lot about you, including your professional history, skills, abilities, and achievements, as well as why you are the best person for the job on offer. So, what we are saying here is this. Your CV is supposed to tell a lot about you, because the potential employer doesn't know you, doesn't even know your name in the first place. Therefore, it is your CV that will speak on your behalf to the employer. When you submit your CV, you may not be around when the employer will be reading the CV. Therefore, your CV has to speak a lot about you, including your professional history, your skills, your abilities, your educational qualification and achievements. And it has to explain why you are the best person for the job. So based on this, the University of Southampton give a guide on how to write a CV, and in the guide, the university identifies 10 rules of writing a very successful CV. These are the rules that we are going to see in the next slide. Now, rules of writing a successful CV. When you aspire to write a CV that will land you your dream job, it is important you follow the following rules. These rules are very, very important. As someone who aspires to acquire or to attain a very good job, it is important you stick to these rules that are given by the University of Southampton guide. Number one, simplicity. Your CV should be as simple as possible. You shouldn't overcomplicate it with unnecessary information or too much information than required. Number two, highlights. It must highlight all your achievements and professional development from the time you begin your schooling in the primary school to date. Then truthful. Your CV shouldn't be full of lies. You shouldn't fabricate or falsify any information in your CV just to get more opportunities. It's important you tell what is truth about you, because even if you lie, one day it will be known by your employer at some point. Then unique. Your style, tone, and this. The style and the tone you use in writing your CV should be personal. That is to say, you are expected to be direct, positive, and personal. Use your own unique style. Don't just follow the bandwagon, as it is said. Make sure your CV is unique to yourself. Then number 6 is word processed. Your CV should be word processed, should be typed in a Word document with spelling and grammar all checked using a word processor. Likewise, you are advised to avoid using slang, colloquialism, and cliches in your CV. Then succinct. Your CV should be short and precise because employers are not interested about long CV with several pages of useless information. So make sure all points are short and precise, usually in bullet points. Then chronology. Reverse chronology. Your CV should be in a reverse chronological order. That is to say, all the information in the CV should be in a reverse chronological order. That is, your university degree should come first before your secondary school certificate, then your primary school certificate. Likewise, in terms of your previous employment, your most recent job should be listed first, then followed by the next one, until your very first job. So ideas and information should be arranged in a reverse chronological order. The review. It is important that before you submit your CV, you give it to a colleague or a teacher or a classmate to critically proofread and review it for you so that it becomes perfect. Then the last one is quality. Your CV should be typed in an A4 size paper using appropriate font size. Information should be well spaced so that the CV looks neat, qualitative, professional, and easy to read. You can use bullet points to identify and separate information, but make sure to never use a colored text in a CV. So even the quality, the outlook of your CV should be professional. Make sure it is typed in an A4 sized paper. Make sure you use appropriate font size and font and even font itself. Make sure you choose appropriate font and font size. Likewise, there should be adequate space between information so that it looks neat. There should be space between one section of the CV and another so that the information doesn't look jumbled up on a page. You can also use bullet points to identify and separate information. And make sure you don't use any color in your CV. Now, here is the main business format of writing a CV. What is the structure? What is the format? What is the procedure of writing a CV? This is what we are going to discuss now. So, here it is said that although a CV can be written in a variety of ways based on the skill and experience of the writer, as well as the job requirements, there are particular sections that employers expect to see in a CV. These sections are explained below. Yes, CV can be written in various ways. In other words, many schools, many employers or many countries have their own ways of writing a CV. That is to say, what is obtainable in a CV in England may not be obtainable in Nigeria or Niger or Cameroon or France or any other country. But despite all these differences, there are some particular sections that any employer expects to see in your CV. These are what we explain in this slide. Number one, your personal details. Your personal details. Your personal details is written at the top of the page, at the top center of the page. It includes your name, your professional title, and your contact details. When I said your name, it means your full name, as well as your professional title if you have any, like Dr. Aliyu Yakub Yusuf, or Professor Musa Ibrahim, or Engineer Mansour Ahmad. If you have any title, that is professional title, you can indicate it alongside your name. Then your contact details. By contact details, it means your address, your phone number, and your email addresses. You are not expected under any circumstance to make your heading of the title as curriculum by T or CV. Instead, your personal details should be your heading. Your name should be the title and should be followed by your address, your phone numbers, and your email addresses. Then number two, personal statement. Another name for personal statement is personal profile. Sometimes it is also called career profile or professional profile. It is where you are expected to tell your employer who you are, what your career goals are, and what you can offer to the company. This is a very important part of the CV because it gives your prospective employer an overview, a hint about the kind of person he or she is about to employ. It tells him what you are, what you want to become, and what value you are going to add to his or her company. That is why here you are advised that your profile should be tailored to every job you applied for by highlighting the specific qualities that make you the most suitable candidate for the job. Yes, don't make your CV so redundant, so much so that for every kind of job you are applying, you are using the same personal statement. No, make sure you tailor your personal statement on the kind of job you are applying for. That is what will impress your potential employers to think about inviting you for an interview. Now, number three is employment history. This is where you tell the employer about your previous jobs. And here you start with the most recent employment or the most relevant employment information, and you go back in a reverse order to the last employment information. Even if you are not involved in any paid employment, it is likely that you are doing something at the time from which you have learned new skills. So even if you are not working in any paid job, perhaps you are doing some volunteer work, perhaps you are doing something that you have gained some experiences, or you have learned some new skills, you can mention it as your employment history. Likewise, for every position, for every previous job that you have done, state your job title, name the organization you worked for, the dates you are employed, the projects you are involved in, the position or responsibilities you have held, as well as the achievements and experiences you have gained from the employment. If you have many years of experience, you can reduce the details of old or irrelevant roles. So in the event that there are so many previous employments that you have engaged in, you can reduce some and only include those that are most relevant to the current position you are applying for. Now, number four, education and qualification. You also write this in a reverse chronological order, just like the previous section. This should also be written in a reverse chronological order. One should include the name of the institutions he or she attended and the dates he or she attended them. This is where you indicate all the names of the schools you have attended: primary school, secondary school, federal polytechnic, college of education, university, whatever schools you have attended. It's important you mention all of them, but in a reverse chronological order, beginning from the highest qualification or highest school down to the lowest one in the reversed order. And this is followed by the qualifications and grades you have achieved in each of the schools. In the case of examinations like WAEC or NECO, one needs not include details of all the subjects taken. They should be grouped together as 9 WAEC credits or 7 NECO credits and so on. So here, under education and qualifications, you are also expected to mention the name of the school alongside the qualification you obtain from the school and the grade. For example, if your highest qualification is a diploma and you finish with an offer credit, you should mention it. Offer credit in accounting, Kano State Polytechnic. You mention the year because it indicates everything about the qualification, the school, the grade you obtain, and the years. Now, we have additional sections. Sometimes, after mentioning all this, you may find out that your CV is still lacking, meaning that you still need to strengthen the CV. Therefore, you may highlight these additional sections. They also add value to the CV. One of them is key skills. This is where you mention all the key skills that you may have. You can include both soft and hard skills, such as language skills, computing skills, and so on. But for each skill, you have to note the level of fluency as well as evidence of using the skill. For example, you can indicate that you can speak 5 languages at a basic level, or you can speak 3 languages at an advanced level, and 2 languages at a basic or intermediate level. Maybe I can speak English, Hausa, Fulfulde, French at an advanced level, but I can only speak Igbo, Dutch at a basic level. You indicate that. Likewise, if you have a computing skill, if you can operate computer proficiently, you can perform multiple operations using a computer, you can mention it here that you have the ability to operate computer, to do MS Word, to do Excel, PPT, Corel Draw, and many other computer operations. Mention it here. Any skill that you think can increase your chances to get the job, it's important you mention it here. Then another section under additional sections is hobbies and interests. You can also improve your CV by adding your hobbies and interests, but here you must be careful. Don't include any hobby that may hinder your chances of getting the job. Make sure that any hobby you mention is aligning or has aligned with the requirement of the job you are applying for. You can include hobbies like travel, cooking, reading, writing, browsing the internet. All these are desired hobbies, but don't include hobbies that are useless, that may put you in trouble with a potential employer. Then lastly, referees. It is important that you include 2 or 3 referees, reliable referees, in your CV, and this is the end of this comes at the bottom of your CV as the last information in your CV. For each referee, you must include their full names, their job titles, their contact details, their email address, and their link to you. So if, for example, you identify a referee, it's important you state the person's professional or official name, full name, alongside his job title, as well as contact details, that is phone number and email address. Here, students are advised that whoever they decide to include as their referee, it's important they inform the person beforehand, because sometimes the person receives an email, a text message, or even a phone call to testify on your behalf as a potential employee. Therefore, it's important you let the person know that you are including him or her as your referee, and that he or she may receive an email, a call, or a text message on your behalf from a potential employer. Alternatively, some people may decide to omit referees completely from their CV and indicate that referees are only available on request. Referees are only available on request. This can also be done in your CV. So any employer who wants to learn more about you from your referees can ask you to indicate referees. Now, what not to include in a CV? What not to include in a CV? As you can see, the first information that you should never include in your CV is a headshot, your picture. In some countries, it is common, but in Nigeria, this practice is not allowed. It used to be allowed in the past, but nowadays pictures are unnecessary in a CV. Number 2, age and date of birth. Don't include your date of birth or your age in the CV, because sometimes it may even be to your disadvantage, because some employers may think you are too old for the job, or they may think you are not capable of performing to your best. because of your age. So omit your age and date of birth in your CV. Then finally, your marital status. It's also another information that shouldn't be in your CV because it doesn't determine your ability to do or not to do the job on offer. Sometimes, in fact, your marital status may even be used to discriminate against you, especially for women. If you are married and you have kids, sometimes that may put off potential employers from employing you because they will think you will be coming with babies to the workplace and they will be distracting you from your job, or you will be going for maternity leave every other year. So it's important you exclude all these three from your CV. Now that we have discussed a CV or a resume, here we are going to discuss how to write a memo. When we talk about a memo, we are talking about a form of correspondence that is used to convey information to members of an organization or from one organization to another organization or another body. So it is another way in which information is shared within or outside an organization. Now, in some disciplines like law, a memo is regarded as a record of the terms of a transaction or contract, such as policy memo, memorandum of understanding MOU, or memorandum of action, and so on. So, when we talk about a memo, we are talking about a written document that is used to send information or to correspond between individuals or organizations. A memo can be written and circulated within an organization, and it can also be written and sent to another organization. That is why we have two different types of memo, the internal and the external memo. Now, here we have internal memo. This is a memo that is written and circulated to people within the same organization. In other words, an internal memo is a brief written document or written communication aimed at passing information from an organization to its various employees or between and among officials in the organization. The topic of an internal memo may range from general notification, request for action, to invitation for meetings, and so on. Now, when we talk about an internal memo, we are talking about a memo that is written and sent to workers within the same organization. For example, in this university, Baylor University, Kano, a VC may send a letter to deans and directors in the different faculties and centers in the university, within the university. Likewise, a HOD may write a letter and send it to the exam officer or the PG coordinator or to other level coordinators or to other staff within the department. These are examples of an internal memo. It is a memo that is written and sent to employees within the same organization, sometimes to pass information or to give general notification or request for action or invitation for meetings, and so on. Now, what is the format of an internal memo? The format of an internal memo varies from one organization to another. That is to say, in writing a memo, some organizations may have specific format peculiar to them. Yes, when it comes to format or structure or procedure of writing a memo, it depends on an organization. Most organizations have their own template, they have their own format in which they write their own memo. So sometimes an employer only uses the format to insert information and compose the memo and pass it to the relevant offices. Now, but generally speaking, when we talk about an internal memo, it has the following format. This is the general format of an internal memo. There is heading. Heading is the first piece of information in an internal memo. The heading of a memo comes at the top of the page and shows the name of the organization as well as the caption internal memo. Yes, any organization that has a memo, the memo is usually written in a letterhead, and the letterhead has the heading The heading shows the name of the organization as well as the caption internal memo below, internal memorandum below. Then after the heading, then we have from. From comes usually at the left hand side of the page, and it shows the title of the officer writing the memo, maybe from the secretary, maybe from the head of the department, or from the general manager, or from the CEO, chief executive officer. So from is there at the left hand side below the heading, and it shows the designation of the officer writing the memo. Then below from we have to. It indicates the designation of the recipient of the memo. Here you have to. Any person to whom the memo is written, here you have his designation. Maybe if the heading is from the head of department, maybe to the level coordinators, they are the recipients. So the two bottom or column indicates the recipient of the memo. Then you have date below. Date indicates the date in which the memo is written. Then subject. The subject or title of the message is written below the sections above. Below heading from to date, you have the subject. The subject shows the title of the message and can be written in the uppercase alone or in upper and lower cases, depending on the style the writer chooses. And it indicates the subject or the message that is being passed across. Then the body of the memo. This is the actual information the memo intends to convey to the recipients. The body contains everything, the information that is being passed across is explained here in detail. Then below the body of the memo, then you have the name of the writer, name of the person writing the memo. It comes usually at the end of the memo. Here we have a sample of an internal memo. Look at the top, the heading, titled Muzammil Travel Agency, number 233 Bombay, Kano. Then below the heading we have internal memorandum. Then here we have from, to, and date. From the general manager, to all staff. Date December 23rd, 2015. Notice of meeting. This is the heading or the title of the memo. Notice of meeting. And this is the body. This is to inform you that the annual end of the year meeting is scheduled to take place as follows. Date Monday 28th December 2015. Venue Musa Abbati Room. Time 10 a.m. The following agenda will be discussed. Opening prayer, brief remarks by the general manager, successes recorded in this outgoing year, challenges and problems encountered, way forward, any other business, and closing prayer. And here you have finally the name of the writer of the memo, Muzammil Haruna, who is the general manager, as we have seen in the previous slide. Now, what about an external memo? Remember we said memos are of two types depending on where they are to be sent. So we have the internal that we have just discussed, and the external memo that we are going to discuss briefly on this slide. The external memo is usually written to send messages to the general public or other external organizations and bodies in order to convey information on certain specific issues. In other words, an external memo is written for the people outside a company or organization and is written in a more formal approach. This is, as the name implies, an external memo is conveying information to people outside the organization, outside the company, usually to the general public or to other external organizations and bodies, to convey information on certain issues. Like in most continuous writing tasks, external memo has an introduction, main body, and conclusion. Just like most other writing tasks, this memo also has an introduction, a main body, and a conclusion. It is written. It is important to note that the format of external memo differs from one company to another and depends on the person or organization to which the memo will be sent. However, most of external memo are written in form of formal letters. Yes, it is format. The format in which an external memo is written may differ from one company to another or from one organization to another, and it also depends on the person or to the people or on the organization to which the memo is written for. However, in most cases, an external memo is usually written in form of a formal letter, and we have discussed the formal letter, so we don't have the need to discuss external memo in more detail because it looks mostly like like a formal letter. So the most important thing is this memo is sent to people outside an organization, usually to general public or to other external bodies and organizations. Now, we are going to discuss minutes of meeting here. Minutes of meeting is another important form of writing which people are engaged in. And this is a primary responsibility of a secretary of a department or an organization. Whenever a meeting is being held in an organization, sometimes a secretary is assigned to take down the minutes, the notes about what happens at the meeting, the decision reached, the recommendation given, and the final actions taken. All these are recorded or taken note of by a secretary, and these notes are what we call minutes of meeting. The minutes of meeting is meant to take note of what happens at any membership meeting. The notes are called minutes. It is a record of official business that occurs during a meeting, and the secretary has to first study the agenda of the meeting, which serves as a skeletal outline. Before any meeting begins, there is usually an agenda. There is an agenda that is to be discussed at the meeting, and the secretary has to study the agenda, and the agenda will guide him on how to go about writing the meeting, because each agenda has to be discussed extensively by those in attendance at the meeting. Therefore, it becomes a skeletal outline to the minutes of meeting. Now, characteristics of minutes of meeting. A minute must indicate the date, time, and place of the meeting, the name of the chair of the meeting, and the list of those present in form of attendance. Now, in the first place, the minutes of meeting should indicate the date in which the meeting is held, the time, and the place where the meeting took place, as well as the name of the chair who chairs the meeting, who presided over the meeting, as well as the list of the people in attendance. Then the minute must also record any explanation of any matter, including any motions made and the actions taken or resolution. Now, under each of the headings, each of the items in the agenda, discussion will follow in the meeting. Therefore, any explanation that is made on any matter in the agenda should be recorded by the secretary, including any motion taken or made, any advice given by anyone, any suggestion made, or any action or resolution taken at the meeting. Under each of the matter on the agenda should be taken noted of or taken record of. It should indicate the next meeting, date, time, and place, or the time of adjournment, the writer's signature, names, and date. Now, finally, minutes of meeting must also indicate the date of the next meeting. When is the next meeting going to be held? Should be indicated. Where? Should be indicated. Time should be indicated. That is to say, information about adjournment of the meeting should all be indicated. It should also contain the writer's signature. Whoever writes the minutes, the secretary must input his or her signature on the meeting, his name. He or she should input his name and signature on the minutes of meeting, as well as the date should all be captured in the minutes of meeting. Finally, here we are going to discuss how to write a CV. Writing an email. Email simply means electronic mail. The email is one of the newest and the most sophisticated forms of correspondence between individuals and organizations. An email is a message which may contain text, files, images, or other attachments sent through a network to an individual or group of individuals. An email, as we all know it, is the newest and the most sophisticated form of correspondence that people and organizations nowadays use. It is newest in the sense that it comes due to the coming of the internet and the ICT. And an email contains text, written text. It may contain files, it may contain images or other attached documents, and it is only sent through a network from an individual to another individual or from an individual to an organization. Email has a number of advantages over other forms of correspondences in that it is a faster and more instant way of sending and receiving information. Yes, it has an advantage or advantages because it is faster and it is instant. As soon as you send an email to someone, he or she will receive the email instantly, no matter the distance, no matter the location. As long as he or she is connected to the internet, you can send an email and it will be received by the other party without any waste of time. Likewise, through an email, you can send a large volume of information to a large number of recipients at the same time. That is to say, you can send files, written files, you can send audio documents, you can send video documents, you can send pictures or images, you can send books, you can send virtually anything through an email or via an email, and it will be received by the recipient at the same time. You can also send it to a wide range of people at the same time. All you have to do is to input all their email address, then they will all receive the same email at the same time. You don't have to send it individually to any member. However, there is one thing. For someone to send an email or receive one, he or she must have an email address and must be connected to a server. You must have an email address. You must open an email address. If you don't have an email address, you cannot use an email. You cannot send or receive an email if you don't have any email address. Likewise, your email address must have a username and a password. It is those login details, the username and the password, that will allow you to access the email. Nearly all organizations nowadays have an email address and a website which they use to correspond with their employees as well as the general public. Some of the commonly used online email services include Gmail, Yahoo, and Hotmail, and so on, and many others. In fact, when you want to open an email, you can open a Gmail account, a Yahoo account, a Hotmail account, and any other. The most important thing is you must be connected to an internet and you must have your own email address. Now, stages of writing an email. What are the stages? What do you do when you set out to write an email? These are the stages we are going to discuss on this slide. An email can be viewed or received through a computer or a cell phone that has an internet connection. When sending an email, the individual must first access his or her email address. After accessing the email page, one should click on Compose button and a panel will appear which contains 3 options. Now, when you want to send or receive an email, you must have a computer or a cell phone that has an internet connection. And when you are sending an email, you must access your own email, because like I have told you earlier on, you must have an email address for you to send an email. Therefore, you open your own email address. You can do that by clicking your email application or your email software on your computer. When you open your own email address, then you will see a button that reads compose button. As you click the compose button, a panel will appear, and the panel has three different options as follows. Number one, the first panel is designated as to. This to is where the email address of the recipient of the message should be written. This is where you write the email address of the recipients. If you are sending the email to 1,000 or more people, you put all their email addresses one after the other under that button 2. Here there are two additional buttons still under 2. There are two additional buttons appended under 2. There is CC and BCC. CC means carbon copy, while BCC means blind carbon copy. The first one, CC. The CC button allows you to send carbon copies of the same email to many recipients whose names will be seen by all the recipients of the email. What I mean by this is that when you click CC and you input all the names of all the email addresses of the recipients of your message, all the names will appear. Every recipient will see that so recipient have received the same email as me. He will see the names, the names of all the recipients of the same email. But when you click BCC, blind carbon copy, it means that you can send the same carbon copy, the same copy of the email to a number of people, but they will not know that you are sending the same message to others, because they will not see the name of the other recipient. They will only see that they have received your message, but they won't see that others have also received the same message. So the email will be received, but the recipient of the email will not see the names of the other recipients. That is the first button, 2. That 2, like I have said, has two additional buttons, CC and BCC. CC means carbon copy, BCC means blind carbon copy. Now the second button that you will see, the second option, is tagged subject. This is optional, you can skip it, but you are advised to use it. This is where you write a brief information about the content of the message. It is just like the heading of the message. If it is an apology you are sending, you can just write apology on top. If it is a notification, you can just write notification. It is just like the heading or title of the message. It indicates what the main message contains. Then after the second option, then the last option is compose email. You will see it is labeled compose email. This is where you click, and when you click, then it will allow you to write the message that you want to write. Anything that you want to write, you write it under compose message. But some students make the mistake of writing the whole message in the subject column or subject button. That is a great mistake. Make sure your mail is written under compose email button. Here you have the option to attach several files. There is a button that reads attachments. This is where you can click. When you click, it will take you to your device. You can locate your video, your audios, your pictures, your documents. You can click and send anything you want to send to the recipients. One advantage of email is that if a sender wants to attach pictures, audio, video files, he or she can do so by clicking the attach file button. Attach file. Then it will lead you to different locations on your device where pictures, audios and videos are stored, where you can click whatever you want to send. After selecting the appropriate file, one should finally click on send. When you select appropriate pictures, audios, videos, documents and so on, then finally you click send, and the message will instantly be transmitted to the recipient's inbox. Therefore, the recipient can easily open and view the contents of the message. Now, this is the end of the lecture. So far, we have discussed in this module other forms of writing, such as writing a curriculum vitae, writing a memorandum, writing minutes of meeting, and finally writing an email. Thank you very much for listening.